Welcome back to another video where we look at 5 markets in a little over 5 minutes. Gold and silver seemed obvious ones this week because of the volatility we've seen, the biggest one-day fall in gold for more than 10 years. We'll also take a look at the NASDAQ, the US tech index, oil, which is having a really good week, up 10% off the Monday lows, and the latest popular meme stock, Beyond Meat. Where are the opportunities? Are there opportunities? Should we be patient? Let's jump in and have a look. Before we have a look at the markets, let's have a quick look at open positions. There's a couple still running that were opened in October. The gold trade, I left an order on that on one of the other videos, and that got filled a couple of days ago on that gold sell-off. The order was to buy at 4,100. It was filled just below 4,100. And the market's just above 4,100, so slightly in profit on that at the moment. And the other one, natural gas, right from the beginning of October, that was underwater for quite some time. Got filled at just below 360. The market now is above 4, so that's worked well. I've got a trailing stop loss on that, and that trade is up £700, and there are some older trades in there as well. So far, the open trade's doing well. Let's take a look at the markets. I think we've got to start off with gold and silver. So let's bring up the gold chart. It's been a dramatic week with this massive candle, massive sell-off a couple of days ago. The biggest one-day fall in gold for more than 10 years, apparently. Big old move, gets loads of headlines. Does it really change the trend? I would say no, not so far. You know, we had the breakout in September to fresh all-time highs. The market moved about $900 higher since then, something like that. And it's dropped back just under $400 or so. But I think there are plenty of people who view this as an opportunity. If we flip this over to the hourly chart and put on a trend line that looks something like that, you can see we've come back to the trend line for gold. It went oversold on the hourlies on that sell-off, pushed a bit lower. But for me, what's interesting, and if I was thinking about being a buyer now, I'd be looking at these old lows, 39.40. So 3,940 from the second week of October. I'd have stops below there to see if gold can move back up to those old all-time highs from just a couple of days ago. So I think it's interesting here. If it starts breaking below 39.40, I'd have a different view and think, well, perhaps that trend is in trouble. But for now, yes, it's been a volatile week, but has it really changed anything? For me, no. Let's take a look at silver. And I'd be tempted to say the same here. This is the daily chart. This is the trend from April. So what's that? 6-month trend. Again, trades up near 55, sells off, but we have seen some stability the last couple of days. So it's another interesting one. You know, if we're thinking, well, I want to buy the dip in the trend, we've had quite a big dip in silver. When it comes to stop losses, if we flip it over to the hourlies, we have these old lows, $45.80 from the end of September. So the last day of September, tested again in early October, and then the price took off. So again, for me, in silver at the moment, this looks like perhaps a buying opportunity, assuming that old level holds. Right, let's take a look at the NASDAQ. It's not been the most interesting couple of weeks, I'd say, for the US tech index. If we zoom things out, so at the moment it's pre-market and it's trading just above 24,900, which is pretty much where it was at the beginning of the month. So we've had 3 weeks of volatility, but no real direction. So for me, for the NASDAQ and for the S&P as well, what I would be watching is the old all-time high. It did set a fresh all-time high earlier in October, just above 25,000. Let's call it 25,200. So if the market breaks this, then I think we can start thinking about the trend continuing. Of course, the flip side is, if you thought, well, look, this market is massively overheated, we've seen a major rally since those April lows. You know, the market's up, what, 50%? Since the April lows, it's come too far too fast. I want to go short. Then going short with stops above that October all-time high is one idea. But for me, I'm just sort of sitting on my hands to see what happens next and expecting the break higher. Let's see if it happens. Now, oil. Big move in oil this week. We're up about, what, 10% off the lows of the week from Monday. So that is a big move. And we've seen this rally on the US sanctioning Russia's Rosneft and Lukoil, the two largest oil companies. And the US is doing this presumably to try and increase pressure on Russia to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. So sanctions on oil companies, we've seen the price of oil rise. What's interesting for me, this downtrend that's been in place for oil since the end of September, it's broken out from that. So is this a shift in the short to medium term trend in oil? It's certainly been strong in the last couple of days. I must admit, I'd be tempted to go short if it starts to run out of steam. At the moment, it's still strong. You know, at the time of recording, it's had a good last hour. It's still pushing higher. So for me, it's another sort of sit on my hands market and see what happens if we get back to these old highs from earlier in October, around about 62.60 on the Capital platform. Let's see what happens up here. Do we see it run out of steam, and is oil due for a trip down to the mid-50s? But very much a news-driven market in the last 24 hours with the news of these US sanctions on the 2 Russian oil companies. And the final one we look at, Beyond Meat. Now this has had an interesting week or so. It's the plant-based burger company, plant-based meat, US stock, listed quite a few years ago now. If we go back in time, you know, you can see it did peak above $200 in 2019, and then recently traded to an all-time low, just above 50 cents. But this week it has touched almost $9, so we saw not far off a 20-fold increase in Beyond Meat. And that's been driven, it's another meme stock. It's got popular on some of the US stock bulletin boards. There's been talk of a short squeeze, all of this. I thought I'd bring it up because it's been in the news, but for me, an impossible market to trade. You know, if we look at just yesterday, the market touched 885, traded as low as 264. Ridiculous volatility. You know, if we have a look on the 10-minute chart, you'll see that the sort of swings that we're talking about. Big old move. So for me, fascinating to watch, difficult to trade. And with a lot of these meme stocks, we can often not see that much progress after the first move. So I wonder if all the excitement is over now, but I thought we'd have a look at it just because of the volatility, and it has been in the news. So for me, an interesting one to watch, but not one to actually risk any money on. Perhaps your view is different. Let's see how the rest of the week is for Beyond Meat. That's it for this update on 5 markets. Some interesting ones in there. I think gold and silver, considering how popular they've been, how well they've done this year, do we see them rally again after this big sell-off? And oil, just how far can this rally go? Or is it going to run out of steam once more? And of course, Beyond Meat, where's that going to end the week? Ridiculous volatility. Let's see where things are over the next few days. Of course, don't forget to stay up to date with all the Capital content. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. I'll be back to talk about other markets in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, good luck with your trading.